Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
With practice and qualifying done from Darlington, Brian and I are in to break down everything you need to know for the Goodyear 400. We'll talk some DraftKings, give you our favorite targets in each range. We'll build some lineups at the end. We'll also update the betting card. What does the outright odds look like now? Who's moved? Are we interested? Are we interested in something else? Is there potential value? Nobody knows. Brian Twining, how the hell are you?
I'm doing great. And as you alluded to, I don't think even the sports books have an idea over who's good and who should be the favorite for this race, because we reopened with 5 guys inside 10-1 once again, which is just gross. I don't know how else to explain it. It's disgusting when practice is supposed to differentiate the drivers from each other, and we're left with more questions than answers after those 2 sessions, with guys that were expected to qualify really well look like crap during their single lap run, and then guys in practice who kind of popped, but maybe that was because they were in group 1 versus group 2, vice versa. Like, there's a lot of stuff left to be answered here as we go into race day for Sunday. And of course, it's Darlington, where shenanigans can happen at any moment, with this being a track that is extremely difficult to tame, as it's coined the track too tough to tame. Rightfully so. We saw it in Xfinity. There was a lot of craziness that happened there. But yeah, I'm excited for the race. I'm excited to dive into DraftKings. I think this is going to be another really interesting week. And hopefully we can find some value at the betting board, because I'm finding it difficult to pinpoint where I should be going right now.
Yeah, it's another tough week. Obviously, the books are trying to, mitigate as much risk as possible, but they're definitely putting us in a pickle in terms of who to target and what to try and go after. So I'll pull up the DraftKings pricing, and we can run through it and then talk about thoughts from practice, who stood out, who looked good, who left us with more questions than answers. Before we do that, make sure you click the like. Make sure you subscribe. Check. A lot of people are watching our videos each and every week, which we greatly appreciate, but you're not clicking subscribe. So please do that. Costs you nothing. Helps us out tremendously. Please consider clicking that button. Brian Twining. We have 3 drivers priced at $10K or above. Kyle Larson starting 19th. Tyler Reddick starting 7th. And Dennis Hamlin starting 3rd. An interesting trio. Obviously, we came in, especially with the highline thoughts of Larson and Reddick being kind of guys that could do well here. But post practice, the betting board isn't quite the same. Is there a clear delineation for you? Is it, obviously, 2 weeks ago at Homestead, it was Larson by a big amount. Last week, it was Blaney by a big amount. Is Larson the click again this week?
Yeah, I think just because of where he's starting, you already have kind of that built-in buffer of potential placement points. And I think you can remove potential and replace that with expected placement points here, because Kyle Larson, for all intents and purposes, should be a top 5 car this weekend. He should be a top 5 contender. I mean, he's priced as the freaking favorite, not to spoil, but again, he's reopens as the favorite for this race. And this is a place that he leads the Cup Series in laps led in the Gen 7 era. So there's clear evidence that he should be a really strong car on Sunday, which then just leads to him being the most rostered guy for DFS purposes with where he's starting. And speaking of Kyle Larson, I just wanted to hit on this real quick. I don't know what happened to the track when he went out for his lap, when actually him, Logano, and Christopher Bell all in an order went out. Somebody threw a friggin' banana peel from Mario Kart on there, because all 3 of them put down very similar lap times, qualifying well outside the top 15 when they were probably expected, based on where they were going, to be qualifying inside the top 5, let alone the top 10.
Yeah, I thought Austin Cindric for a while was just gonna put it on the poll early and be like, "What is going on?" Obviously, when the Group 2 came out, they were able to kind of fix that. But yeah, and Alex Bowman had some issues. There was a few guys that kind of got squirrely in coming out of one of the turns, and cost them qualifying order based on that. So yeah, I do I do want to try and build a lineup that has Larson and Reddick in it, because I think, much like Homestead, those are going to be two of the best options. That being said, the 9K range has a bunch of interesting names. Obviously, William Byron's puts it on the poll, 9,900. Ryan Blaney, you could argue that he was the best car in practice, qualifies inside the top 10. Now, we've talked about him and his success or lack thereof at Darlington. We were looking at his pricing. We were thinking, okay, well, maybe there's some opportunity to kind of fade him early in the week. Comes out, looks awesome. But this is a guy who has 3 top 10s ever. 2 of those came in 23. One of them came in 21. Obviously, last year, both of his races were ended by shenanigans.
Not of his doing.
No, and we've seen it this year. Like, maybe this is the week it turns around, because every week it seems like there's been shenanigans, whether it's his engine blowing up, whether it's whatever the case may be. So he's interesting, but he's also got not a lot of track history that makes you really excited. So it's really a matter of, do you believe what you saw in practice? Do you think he can be that elite car and just dust the field? Because if he is, then yes. Or do you lean track history and go, this is a guy who can barely squeeze out top 10s over 16 trips? I'm happy to fade him. Where do you fall in that spectrum?
Yeah, it's funny, when you talk about top 10s too, it's not like Ryan Blaney's top 10s are 6th or even like 4th or 5th. They're an 8th and 2 9th place finishes. So, I mean, it's like barely cracking the threshold there. That being said, I think, at least for me anyways, the way that I'm kind of approaching this race, and I've been saying this leading up to today and leading up to practice, and that is, this is the first time that we're actually seeing Darlington be run in such close proximity after Homestead in the springtime.
Yep.
And although Darlington doesn't have an exact sister track or a very, something that's extremely close in comparables, Homestead is probably the closest we're going to get it, because of the tire wear, because of the high line being the preferred line and being able to run against the wall. And I think when you look at that stuff and everything that has led up to this weekend, I don't think you can come away from that practice and qualifying session without realizing that Ryan Blaney has an absolute rocket ship. And all things being equal, if you remove the variance and you remove track history, which obviously you have to account for, he's probably going to be amongst the top 3 to 5 guys here on Sunday and maybe compete for his first ever top 5 potential win here. And it's something that I'm definitely having to eat a little bit of crow on, because coming into the week, I faded him in a matchup with Denny. I was not so high on Ryan, but
ultimately maybe that works out for us, but the betting board is telling us that they expect him to be really strong on Sunday. And so that's something we have to take into account as well.
Yeah. And I think too, it's really important to note that when you do look at practice times this week in particular, and the field is beginning to level out. Group 2 was the strongest of the strong. When you look at who was competing in that group here, he was the best car from my opinion. In my opinion, he was the best car during that session. And that includes Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, all of the guys that we came into the week talking as the favorites for the race. And so my takeaway is, Ryan Blaney is going to be a contender. And I think for DFS purposes, based on his track history here, a lot of people might steer clear of him.
Yeah. And I think, as much as I hate having 2 sets of groups for practice, at least now it's really taking the contenders and making them practice against each other.
Exactly.
And then we can kind of sort out the jabronis and make decisions with them, and then the actual guys that can be a factor on Sunday. So it's making the best of a bad setup.
Yeah, and real quick on the practicing, I know a lot of people were perturbed about the new format the first couple of races, at least when we first went to the first ovals, because we had just came out of super speedways and a lot of randomness occurred at those prior races where the fields were kind of split. But I think this week and next week, you're really going to see the reason why this format works better, because now you have the guys who are competing for race wins all practicing together to be able to compare against each other rather than having to factor in, oh, the track was clean, so it's going to be a little bit faster, or so-and-so. In this week's case, John Hunter Nemechek spins on lap 17, so guys didn't get a full run on their tires. So, yeah, I for one, I like the new format. I think as the season goes along, it's going to become more and more popular from fans. But, yeah, sorry. We can
No,
continue.
you're good. I think it's going to be good for us, but I also think it's going to be beneficial to the books, which probably means we get squeezed and makes
Very
it a little
true.
hard.
Good point.
Let's talk the rest of that 9K though, because we have Byron, as I mentioned, on the poll. We have Christopher Bell starting 17th, which he was somebody that we expected to see a little bit more. He was really good in Xfinity until stage 3 when his car just kind of.
Well, he got kind of beat up.
That's also true.
Yeah.
Joey Logano starting 18th, Chase Briscoe starting 4th, and Chase Elliott, another Xfinity guy, starting 15th at 9K. Interesting range. Obviously, Bell, Logano, Elliott all kind of within a similar range. Even Blaney's kind of close to that. And then obviously you have Byron on the pole and Chase Briscoe in the top 5. Of the non-Blaney guys, who kind of stands out as somebody you're interested, somebody you're compelled to click when we start building lineups here in a few minutes?
Well, it's definitely not Joey Logano. I don't think this is a place where we can look at the last 2 years and say that Logano is going to be able to drive through the field and make up track position, because this is not a place where you can say short pit or take 2 tires and necessarily come out the other side in a beneficial spot. I mean, Harrison Burton was able to kind of parlay some lucky cautions late in the race with a finish that he didn't deserve in the Xfinity race, but that's not going to happen here in Cup. I just don't think the field strength is going to allow that for a guy like Logano. And then, Briscoe starting so far up the field, his car looked like doo-doo in practice. So I have zero interest in thinking he's going to be able to maintain it. I would actually prefer, something we talked about off air. This is going to be a week you're going to have to squeeze in a couple of these super high priced guys into a lineup and then get some jabronis that are super cheap, as you like to call them, because with Larson starting so far back in the field, I definitely think this is a race that maybe deviates from that trend of top 4 starters winning because of the qualifying results that we saw. So, getting a Reddick, a Blaney, and a Larson maybe in a lineup, and then just getting 3 super cheap guys, I think is another way to attack this.
Yeah, and I'm almost tempted to be either like grab a Larson or Reddick 10K and then dropping down to 8 or 7s. True. Or just skipping the 10K guys, or maybe grabbing one and building from the 9K and kind of working that way, because there's nobody here that I'm like absolutely dying to play. Byron obviously looked good and was able to put on the pole, but like he could easily be somebody that starts hot and kind of fades by stage 2 and then is just kind of stuck in traffic most of the day and ends up finishing like 13th and doesn't really do a lot for you.
I also think so too, like when you look at Darlington, we can talk about practice results and qualifying order all we want, but this is not a place where that's necessarily going to determine where a guy's going to finish. I mean, when you look at the field that's entering this weekend and just looking over the past 6 races in the Gen 7 era, there's only like 4 guys who have 4 top 10s in the 6 races. And then of the field, there's only 11 drivers that are coming into this weekend that have even top 10 in half of the 6 races. So this is not a place where, you can kind of overcome mistakes and that type of stuff on pit road or damage to your car, because when you get damaged here and you have with the way the track eats your tires, a bad result is going to happen. This is not a place where you can recover from that as easily. So it's a lot more difficult to just say like, oh, this guy is starting up here, he's going to maintain.
I think it's a good week to lean into the variance. I think understanding what your risk is this week, I think, is really important. We'll see. You know, I'm going to build cash lineups later this evening. I don't know if I'm going to feel great about it because, like you said, there's just so much like up and down. So many guys that have been good here at points and awful here at points. And Blaney looks awesome, but like he has no track history, so it's really really interesting to figure out. Let's talk 8Ks. We got Kyle Busch, who looked great in practice, but is Kyle Busch an RCR? What do we do with them? Ross Chastain starting 25th is pretty compelling, given where he's starting. We think he can move forward. Obviously had some decent run in the Xfinity race. Our guy Bubba Wallace starting 5th. Happy to see that for bets, but not sure I love it for DraftKings. Alex Bowman starting 33rd. I think that's going to be an easy click, given what Hendrick can produce, but still we'll see. Chris Buescher and then Brad Keselowski, the RFK boys. Obviously, Buescher 14th, Brad 20th, but
I know Kez is probably going to be one of the most popular guys on the board. I already just envision him being probably in that 30 to 35% range minimum, just because of his track history, what we saw him do here last year. I mean, he won the spring race when him and Buescher were amongst the top 5 best cars on the day. So obviously I think Kez is going to be extremely popular, especially when he's $100 cheaper than his teammate and starting 6 spots further back.
Yeah. I'm just looking at what our friends over at Win the Race, they don't actually have him projected quite for 30%, but looking at a few different sources, he's definitely going to be very, very popular, and obviously has a win here, so it makes sense. I don't know that I'm going to get there. Obviously, we'll have to see as we kind of build lineups what we end up doing, especially with a name or two in the 7K range that jumps out as really compelling. Alex Bowman, I think, is another guy who is in a similar boat, who's going to be pretty popular, starting far back, can easily move forward, have a strong day. We'll see how far forward he can go, but I think he makes sense. And then I think Ross, I think there's a very good chance that if you start with 2 guys from 10K, you dive down to the 8K, grab a couple guys there, you're going to be really happy with the way your lineup's kind of taking form. So figuring out how you want to do that, I think it's going to be a challenge, but I like a few of those names. 7K, Josh Berry starting 24th. I think 7,800 makes a lot of sense for him. Austin Cindric, no thank you. Eric Jones starting 34th. I could get into some legacy this week. Ty Gibbs starting 11th. Ryan Preece starting 2nd. Noah Gragson 26th. Carson Hocevar 13th rounds out the 7K. So Barry and Jones are really, really compelling. Probably going to be popular, but for right reasons. Once again, showing that I think it's going to be feasible to start with a expensive duo, maybe even a trio, and build lineups that you're going to be pretty happy with, although we're going to still have to scrape the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, so Josh Berry and Brad Keselowski in particular, to me, they're the 2 amoebas of practice, because they went out in Group 1, cleaner track. It wasn't as hot when they ran their first 16 laps or whatever it was prior to the aforementioned JHN spinning. They were very fast, very competitive. They topped the charts in the 10 and 15 lap averages. But how much of that was the fact that they did go out in that first group where the track was a lot cooler, and there's a little bit more there's a little bit more grip there for them to be able to lay down those laps. And something else that really popped for me is the fact that Ford in general was very fast as an entire manufacturer during the practice session and practice, which is something we got to see a lot of last year. And then that did not come to fruition on Sunday. So, Barry is definitely somebody that I'm being weary of. I do think he's going to be strong. I do definitely think he's a potential top 10 candidate. And then when we talk about Eric Jones, a lot of people like to talk about Eric Jones's past successes here, and yes, he's got a win in the Gen 7 era. But outside of that win, he only has one other top 10, and it was a 10th place finish with his next best result being 19th last spring. So this is not a guy who I think we're sitting here talking about, oh yeah, he's a top 10 contender every single week, blah, blah, blah. Like, and then when you go
You're
to
saying he's
look,
better than Ryan Blaney here.
and then when you go and you look at practice times, Toyotas looked to be a tick off.
Yeah.
And so for me, knowing how popular Jones is going to be from a grand vantage point, I would almost want to fade him just because I haven't seen enough out of him this year. Going back to what I was saying about, I want to see guys that have been running well coming into this race. Jones doesn't necessarily check those boxes for me. So I know he's starting further back in the field. He's super cheap, but I would rather save a little bit more money and go down and play Noah Gragson, who is somebody who's also really good at ripping the high line, was good in Xfinity here, was good in Xfinity at Homestead. Like, you're giving up 9 placement points, but you're saving $400, and he's probably going to be less popular than Jones because of that starting position being a little bit higher up in the field.
Yeah, it's really a matter of like kind of what the rest of your lineup looks like. I think Jones is like, he's so easy to click because, like you said, he's won here. He's starting 34th. There's not much room to go backwards, but he's still Eric Jones in a legacy car. So, do with that information as you will. But if you are clicking Barry and Keselowski and Larson, and maybe it makes sense to not click Jones. Maybe that's where you get different. Or maybe you get different earlier and then get to Jones. It's all about figuring that out. Yeah. But he will be very popular, especially for the, mid-range guys. Like he's going to be one of, if not the most popular guy.
Now, before we move on from this group, I think you already have an idea about like where I lean here, but I wanted to get your take on probably the most polarizing guy for this show and a lot of other shows the last 2 weeks, I want to say. Mr. Tyrone Gibbs, qualifying 11th. He looked pretty speedy in practice. Well, is he completely out of sight, out of mind until he proves it? Or is this somebody that, with the track position, we saw what he could do here last year. And even with him clipping the wall numerous times in the spring, like he still wound up bringing it home second because of the chaos between Reddick and Buescher. I mean, he was running top 5 pretty much the whole day. Like, obviously he doesn't have that starting position here, but the speed might be there finally again. They made a couple of changes to, his car chief. They brought in, I'm going to butcher this. I only know him by his nickname. The guy named Cheddar, who was Rodney Childers' right-hand man. Like,
he's a really hard click. I think he's much more compelling from a betting standpoint, especially if you can make sure you're getting paid out. But if you want like a point of difference, and like I'm just looking at like kind of starting position, similar price tag. Like
okay, so Ty Gibbs or Eric Jones, who do you think has a better chance to win the race?
Can I say neither?
Okay.
Well, let's do this.
What's the higher probability?
What about? Well, I think Ty Gibbs has a better chance, but given he's 20 spots farther forward, I'm playing Eric Jones 100 times out of 100. Would you consider Carson Hocevar or Ty Gibbs?
Honestly, oh man, that was really difficult. I'd probably play Gibbs just because I think Hocevar is such a lead foot that he probably puts himself into a couple of precarious situations more so than Gibbs.
What about Chris Buescher or Ty Gibbs?
Oh man. Those are difficult. Yeah, look, I don't know what to make of Gibbs right now. I know I swore him off a couple of weeks ago after he completely shat the bed over in Miami, obviously looking like one of the best cars in practice. But again, that goes back to the fact that he was in Group 1 and then Group 2 was out there looking really good. This week, not the case. He went out with the who's who in the Cup Series, and he was very competitive in his practice times. He's up there in the 20, 25, 30 lap splits. He was very fast. He qualifies 11th. maybe things are turning around for him. Now, I don't necessarily think that he's a great DFS play because obviously starting 11th, you need him to make up, probably finish with the top 5 and get a couple of fastest laps. So that's going to be a little more difficult. But from the way that I'm looking at this, I think there's a higher probability that, say, Ty Gibbs does top 5 than there is that somebody that Eric Jones, who hasn't looked good this year and really doesn't have the historical data to support the amount of support that he's getting this weekend, that he's going to finish, say, inside the top 20, which I know you're giving up another 10 placement points there, but Gibbs to me at least presents the value of leading laps, fastest laps. Who the hell knows if he catches a pit stop correctly? Maybe he jumps to the front, and and it's a way to deviate yourself from the rest of the people playing in those GPPs.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, in the fall race last year, he started 13th. He was basically top 10 almost all day. Ends up finishing 20th, but led a lap, was closer to a top 5 most of the day. And then started 4th and finished 2nd last year. I don't know. He's going to be a tough click, but if I'm super chalky and I want to just get a little bit different, I don't hate it.
Last question on this. Brad Keselowski or Ty Gibbs? I mean, we're talking similar resumes leading into Darlington here. I mean, I think Kez has been a little bit quicker the last couple of weeks, and he has the track history, but
if the $600 really makes a difference and I can get to someone that I like significantly more at the top, or don't have to go quite as far into the jabronis, I could see an argument. Especially because I don't really love Kez, and I think he's going to be popular. So if that can be my tweak and just kind of go with the same kind of the rest of the way. I don't hate it. I don't love it.
Yeah.
He probably won't be in a ton of lineups, but
no, yeah,
if I end up in a range where
Gibbs
I'm
is like a 5% guy,
yeah,
even if that.
let's talk jabroni sandwiches. Dinger, Suarez, McDowell, Stenhouse, Austin Dillon, Justin Haley, Todd Gilliland, Zane Smith. My God, that's a gross range.
The two easiest clicks here are Dillon and Haley. I don't think there's a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Justin Haley, I think, is another guy. I'm trying to look at what when the race has him projected because I feel like he's gonna be pretty popular. He's a guy that I think I don't know. Maybe I'll be more excited than the field, but what do we got going on over here? Justin Haley.
So while you look that up, just real quick too, looking at Dillon and Justin Haley, these are also two guys that kind of fit my mold of guys who have been performing well on similar-ish type tracks heading into this race. Both of them top 10 contenders, with Haley stealing Dillon's top 10 at Homestead. And also, when you look at this, like, this is a track that Haley has a few top 10s in the Gen 7 era. And this is actually Austin Dillon's third best track in his career in the Cup Series, with a 15.3 or something average finish. And if you remove 2023, which was an absolute shit show for RCR, and I believe last spring's race where he got caught up in some issues, he has like a 12.4 average finish in every other race throughout his career here at Darlington. So this is a place that Dillon gets around very good at. It's only $6,300. He's starting outside the top 20. I would much rather play both of these guys over Brad Keselowski too.
Justin Haley also, it has been, obviously this is in May, we're about a month earlier, but 22 he finished 3rd, 23 he finished 8th, and 24 he finished 9th. So he's been basically a top 10 guy the last 3 spring versions of this race. He's going to be a guy that I'm going to click a lot. And when you're looking down there, and I can almost guarantee you, no, I can guarantee you, he will be one of the 3 guys I write up in our newsletter.
Well, if we're giving away spoilers, you already know it's 83 stacks for me this week.
I know that's your guy. It's a weird guy to like get excited about every week, but here we are. He keeps popping up and looking impressive.
He has better stats than Eric Jones outside of the one win. I don't understand the Eric Jones love since we've gone to the Gen 7 car versus a lot of other guys in the field.
Yeah. It's the community as a whole gets caught up in some weird pockets of NASCAR and gets into really weird drivers that everyone's apparently like Todd Gilliland and Eric Jones, and I don't know. Let's round out the rest of the field. Austin Hill, Cole Custer, Riley Herbst, John Hunter, SVG, Ty Dillon, Cody Ware, JJ Yaley. I mean,
Yeah, that's kind of the same way that I feel about
is
this
Austin
race.
Hill the click? No, he's
I
driving.
worry about we talk shit about RCR all the time, and the fact that he's the third car in that stable, and it's something we've mentioned before. And then I don't think this is a place where, say, like, I hate saying it, but SVG is in this like downward spiral of performances, and this is not a track where you want to be learning or still kind of a newbie in the
He is able to pick things up pretty quickly, which I appreciate. But yeah, it's definitely not comfortable. So let's build some lineups and see how gross we have to get. So the first two clicks are going to be Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick, and we're going to see how we can build from there. Should we just scroll down and go get Haley and Dylan while we're at it? Okay,
yes.
Let's see where that gets us. All right, so
All
that's
right.
8,400. There's a lot we can do. I can just do this, and then
All right. Oh man, I'm loving
that
this
still
already.
gives us 7,100.
Oh,
We could just, God, that lineup is dead. There's no chance it's
so easy.
There's no chance that that's the lineup. When it's that easy, there's no chance, and it's not gross. Like, all right, I'm going to give you the T and let you run. Where do you want to go?
All right, just for checks and balances purposes, we didn't even talk about this guy at all. Kind of the underrated superstar in the Cup Series right now. I think we've got to play William Byron in the lineup and just hope that the speed that we saw in qualifying kind of translates to Sunday, and he's able to keep it up front for the majority of like the opening stage.
I don't love it, but last week I didn't love Christopher Bell, and we ended up kind of getting there, and he ended up being awesome. So
well, and then too, when you look at Byron in the Gen 7 era, he's been the most consistent guy in speed rating at Darlington.
Yeah, for a track that has so much up and down for like so many different guys, for him to be as reliable and as consistent as he has, I guess he's a good click. If we're going to do the Hendrick thing, I'm going to click on Alex Bowman. I mean, you could just say it if you want.
Man, this is rough. All right, let's go. Oh man, let's go Watermelon Man here.
Okay, that's
Stick
not
with
where
Chevy.
I thought. Chevy heavy, baby. 77. Let's see here. How do we feel? Another guy we didn't really talk about, but I think might make some sense, especially if we're going to do the Ross Chastain thing. Mi amigo. He's starting 30th. I don't know. I could be into it.
I don't know, man. I worry about him not being able to get out of his own way.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it seems like he's going to be a little popular for the pessimism that you have. So maybe he is a good guy to not click on. I mean, you want to just do SVG and then That way we can do 2 elite guys.
I mean, I don't hate that. Although I will say I would rather pay $400 more and play Cole Custer over SVG. He at least has multiple trips here in the Gen 7 car before, multiple times around this track throughout his career. I mean, even back with Stuart Haas, he has a 26th and a 14th place finish, like in 2022.
Yes.
So
I agree with that. And if we have the extra salary, I say we'll do it.
okay.
That being said, let's build the other 2 first and figure out, because we might. The difference between SVG and Custer is probably minimal, but if it's say the $400 gets us from somebody that we don't really love to somebody that we're pretty excited to play.
True. Yeah, good point.
I could be in on it. So we have almost 9K. We can do Larson if you want to do Larson, since we're already doing Bowman and Byron. And that leaves us with 73. So we could do Gregson, we could do Dinger, we could do Suarez, or we could do.
Honestly, there's nobody further down that the potential that Kyle Larson brings to the table. I mean, you can say this every single week, but especially here.
Yeah.
Larson's going to find his way to the front at some point.
Question. Do we want to go high line, tweak it a little bit, throw Tyler Reddick in here?
Okay.
And then we could do Eric Jones.
So
do you want Reddick and Eric Jones, or do you want Kyle Larson and what, $300 more? So like Gregson, Suarez.
Is there a way we could save? Damn, no. I was gonna say, is there a way we could save $200? Who's the cheapest guy on the slate? Is it SVG?
It's Yaley, Ware, Dillon. We can also do Larson and Custer, and that puts us at like.
No, so Suarez. What I was gonna say is, I think Josh Berry.
Okay.
And then instead of SVG, we'll play.
Let's see, Berry.
You could do Larson.
No, we can't.
Yeah, do Larson.
We can't. We don't have enough.
Put him in there.
It won't. We're
down.
4,900.
Son of a poop.
It's off by 100. So we could get rid of Chastain or Bowman.
No, because we gotta go with the Chevy people. All right, get rid of Berry. I guess Berry doesn't work. My calculations were off by $100. All right, I think this has to be the Eric Jones play then, because you got to maximize potential points. And then this is where we have to get disgusting and decide between Cody Ware and JJ. Oh, man. Hold on. I mean, neither of them were good. However, JJ Yaley in the 44 car, they may run halfway through stage 1 and decide to park it and just get paid by their sponsors. Like, I have more confidence that the 51 will at least run the entire race and through attrition gain position points, where the 44, there's no doubt in my mind that if they try to do that, they're still going to finish last.
So here's what I have to tell you.
Oh, no.
Both of our friends over at Win the Race have Yaley projected for more points. Significantly less ownership. They're both disgusting, and I don't know that we really should be clicking on either of them. The other question is, still dealing with a back issue. Do we have any interest, instead of clicking 2 guys that make our stomach want to throw up? We could do Haley, and that opens up Austin Dillon or Ricky Stenhouse. We could also do Austin.
So just real quick, JJ Yaley in the 44 car has competed in 3 races this year. They didn't qualify at Daytona. They finished 37th at Atlanta, and they finished 35th at Homestead.
Now do it on Cody Ware.
Oh shit! Cody Ware finished one spot ahead of Yaley at Homestead. Oh man. I would still rather play Cody Ware than JJ Yaley. Just the equipment difference is too much for me to get past.
I don't want to play either of them.
No, I know that, but still, like. But I don't think we can go into a weekend and have two lineups with Austin Dillon and Justin Haley anchoring us.
That's fair.
Now, I don't mind playing one or the other in another lineup and then going a different direction. Like, I think this is a spot where you could play Haley or Dillon and then go with Custer.
Okay. I think we do Dillon. And you want to do Custer over Austin Hill? I mean, I don't want to. Yeah, I mean, we're really just like scraping barrels.
I was just gonna say, like, at this point, you're literally flipping a coin. Which, I mean, if you want to play Austin Hill, I don't necessarily hate it. But again, I worry about them being the third wheel, literally, in a camp that hasn't been quick.
No.
I mean, we could also play Ty Dillon. Like, this is not a place where he's good at, but that car has been much faster than many people anticipated.
I'd rather do SVG than Ty Dillon. I think for me it's between Custer, SVG, and honestly the fact that we can still get Haley. And I know we were playing a lot of Justin Haley and a lot of Austin Dillon, but
all right, screw it. I'll go against everything I just said. Like, we are hitching our wagon to Justin Haley and Austin Dillon. Just put both.
It's just like I
see what you're saying. The upside is much greater than Cole Custer. I get it.
Like, Justin Haley has had 3 straight top 10s. I know this is going to be the week after I did all the Custer stuff last week where Justin Haley gets like 35th. And I'm like, why didn't I just play Cole Custer, who got 17th magically?
No. I already know how this is going to work out for you. Is this race is going to play out exactly like Las Vegas did. And we're going to get some weird ass caution late that is going to like flip the field after the pit cycle had already ran its course. And say you had the jabronis like a Custer running long, praying for a caution. And then they're going to be the ones on fresh tire, like 10 to 15 lap fresher tires with about 30 laps to go. And everybody's already taken all their allotment of freshies or something.
All right. So this lineup's going to be our real gross one. And we're going to start with Cole Custer.
Oh man.
We could do a Ford heavy. We could do Blaney. We could do Keselowski. We could do.
Oh yeah. We haven't played Kez. Let's do Kez and Barry here.
Okay.
Yeah, because I feel like that definitely gets us to the top or close to it.
How do I feel about that?
I don't know how I feel about having Larson in 3 lineups.
But he's the best guy. Like, I mean, I'm
okay.
down. If you want, we could do Reddick. I feel like if we're talking about how the Homestead corollary, the rip the line. If you want to say Reddick's the guy, I'm happy to do that because I think that will make us enough different too.
I feel you. Believe me, you're not going to have to twist my arm to tell me that Kyle Larson is going to be the best car on Sunday or wind up being the best car. That being said, you're talking about the same guy who only has 2 finishes better than 12th here in the Gen 7 era because he oftentimes puts himself into the wall, ruining his day. Like that's my worry about Kyle Larson in this spot. And if you were to also, like, again, just like we built our first lineup, Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick, and Kyle Larson, if they finish 1, 2, 3 in some order, that's not going to be surprising to me whatsoever.
So I'm tempted to click Bubba in here.
I think that's too many guys.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to do Reddick and Blaney and Bubba. So if you want to
Yeah.
do Reddick, Bubba, I'm happy to do that. We'll kick Blaney out. We'll figure it out. But I think with the Ford heavy, we do this and then we figure out. I mean, it's probably just Bowman or Jones, right?
Man, I'm
I
so
know.
worried about Eric Jones.
So just do Bowman then. I feel much better about it. He's one spot forward. He's more expensive, but we have salary.
I trust him more than Eric Jones, although Jones technically has the better
And we're unique enough where we don't have
perceived
Larson.
track history.
We have the Ford guys. The Barry Keselowski Custer group, I think, is really unique. So
Yeah. All right.
I think that's it.
Love it.
Okay.
The grosser, the better. That's kind of the way I feel about
Mhm.
making these lineups because
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever built a lineup that I've been extremely confident in that has ever won money on DFS.
No, the ones that I feel the worst about that make me want to throw up are the ones that I like. They end up
Not
doing
that I
well.
play a bunch on DFS, but
Yeah. Anything else DraftKings related that you want to make sure we hit on before we flip over and look at the outright odds?
yeah, unlike a place like Martinsville where it's more so like bump and run type wrecking. I don't think this is a place where you want to get very heavy just because of the variance and the craziness that can happen at
So
Darlington.
you're saying Austin Dillon and Justin Haley in every lineup is probably not the move?
Yes. I mean, even in 2 out of 3, that's terrifying. But yeah, like I would not get too heavily invested. And honestly, this might wind up being my lowest exposed race from a DFS/betting perspective from a grand picture as well, just because of that going into the race.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really excited after hitting a winner last week to be like, okay, let's fire, let's have some fun. But like the board hasn't really been there. There's not a
Yep.
lot of stuff that I'm like fired up to take. I'm really curious to see what Worm has to say tomorrow in the previous poll. I highly recommend checking that out each and every week. We hope that we're part of your weekly content consumption. We also recommend the pre-race poll with Chris Wormy every Sunday right before the race gets going, and the draft. Our friends over at Win the Race with Tino Patino and Full Tank with Phil, they do a really fun like draft of each team's best thing, and they throw some bets in there, and they also donate at the end of the week depending on who wins. So it's a really cool cause,
Really cool. Yeah.
really entertaining show. They're really finding their footing. So highly recommend checking those out in addition to our content. As a reminder, if you're enjoying what we're doing, if you like the show, please consider liking, subscribing, and joining us over on Substack, completely free. All of those clicks cost you nothing, help us out tremendously. Would really appreciate a few clicks. Betting card as it stands.
All pre-practice.
All pre-practice. Ty Gibbs to put on the poll. Obviously didn't get there, but 20-1 felt good. Gibbs over Kyle F. and Busch. We'll see. Plus 120. I think there was some better numbers in that when the numbers kind of reshuffled. We'll see what odds kind of come out as now that everything's done. 23-11 over Penske, minus 115. Really liked that bet. And I found a Bubba thanks to our listener. I should pull that up and actually shout them out because they mentioned switch counts. They mentioned
I mean,
that
it's the same price post-practice, but
right. Well, yeah, but like we really appreciate people who actually like comment and mention, um, give us insight as they're going through our stuff. So let's see. Shout out to Skull 4519 giving us some nice bets in the comments. We really appreciate everybody who comments. We try and respond to as many as possible. So make sure you're dropping, especially if you're commenting post the video going up, and kind of we'll try and loop back between now and when the race gets going. So make sure you're jumping on that. But I did add Bubba Wallace at 20-1. You can still get that. So if you want to ride with that, I just think he's going to be fast. We've seen how good 23-11 can be. Brian has him at 18. He has Gibbs at 50. Good job, Brian.
Yeah, I
83
think he'd
stacks.
reopen longer.
Yeah. So it's Tyrone Gibbs. 83 stacks, top 10, 11-1. 23-11 over Penske, and then he's adding Ryan Preece as the first bet. So let me refresh this just to make sure it's accurate. Okay, so Kyle Larson 450, Ryan Blaney 6, Reddick 6, Byron 6, Denny Hamlin 7.5. Those are all of your inside 10-1 guys. Byron was the one guy that I never got to. I have to fix this.
We talked about it. We mentioned it, and we called it out as the only sub 10-1 number that we felt like was worth taking prior to practice and qualifying. And it's something that we continue to see on a week-to-week basis. Kind of that like forgotten guy amongst the favorites has routinely wound up reopening shorter than what he was early. So clearly you have some CLV there.
Yeah. Well,
Again, that
not
being
us,
said,
because neither of us added it, neither of us bet it, but it did jump
however,
out as
like
the best option.
yeah, the thing about that though, when you go into a place like Darlington, and from what we saw in practice and from what we saw in qualifying, like I can't confidently tell you which of these guys I expect to win the race. Like I expect all of them to be very competitive. I expect maybe all of them to be up front at some point on Sunday. And so I'm not going to sit here and try to say like, oh yeah, I want to bet this guy because I think he's going to win. If able, to me, this is the prime opportunity to jump into the live betting platform at any book that you have available that offers that, because as we get into stage 3 and guys have developed track position, you've seen their ability to pass or not pass and whose pit crew has been up to par so far during the day, which you're going to see a lot of 4-tire stops. I think that's then when you can try to pinpoint who the top 3 to 4 guys are. Whereas as we head into the race right now, I don't know. I have no idea which one of these guys I think at some point is going to wind up winning the race, because I'm not going to count out the guys that are priced much longer either. Like track position is going to be important. Pit road mistakes are going to play a major role at some point in this race for maybe guys up front, maybe guys in the mid pack, maybe guys in the back. But you can't tell me that post practice and qualifying that 5 guys priced under 8-1 is going to get me excited to play any of them. No, like no.
Yeah. And it's just like, do I wish I had Byron? Kind of. But do I feel like he's gonna win either? Not really.
Exactly. He could wind up being like the 4th best car all day and look like he doesn't have the speed to compete with, say, a Larson, Blaney, Reddick. I
think I'm gonna add my second outright, and I'm gonna add with our friends at FanDuel. You can get Bubba, by the way, at 22. What is it here? Yeah, he's 20 at FanDuel. He's 22 at Caesars. I'm gonna add Tyler Reddick.
Oh baby, Kyle jumping in with the 45.
7-1. I think a really good number for a guy that I think can do amazing here. I'm already on 23-11. I didn't think this number would be this good post qualifying in practice, but I saw what I needed to see. I'm happy to jump in. I think he can run the high line, and I think him and Larson are a lot closer than I think their odds indicate. And honestly, I'm gonna be doing some shopping here in a little bit. If I can't find a Reddick over Larson at a really good price, I might jump in on it. If it's like anywhere close to the same, I'm obviously not going to hit it. But if I get like plus 130, 140, probably won't get that. But like the odds say that they should be like it should be a decent value, and I don't think it's going to be priced that way.
Yeah, no, 100%. Now, I think one of the reasons why I'm having such a difficult time with these odds this week is because I am weighing Homestead probably a little heavier than what the vast majority of the community is. And so I talked about this earlier in the week with a guy like Tyler Reddick. I don't think there was any more disappointing of a performance than what we saw out of the 45 there. Going into the week expected to be the favorite or amongst the favorites to run up front, and he was no better than maybe a 7th or 8th place car at best. And so now we go to a place where the high line is also the preferred line. I know he was really good here in the spring. He's good at Darlington, but that has me a little worried from what we saw back there in Miami. And then again, when you go back to the speed that we're seeing out of Blaney right now, and then Denny Hamlin, like I know a lot of people are going to kind of glance over him because he's coming off of a win at Martinsville, and he hasn't necessarily been up front here at Darlington the last few years in the Gen 7 era. But again, we're talking about the active leader in wins and average finish at the Lady in Black in Denny Hamlin. And so am I going to be surprised if it's the Ohio or if it's Hamlin against the world flag being raised once again after the checkered flag is raised? No, but I just have zero confidence in being able to pinpoint which of these guys I think is going to win. And I think they're priced so close together. I think this is a good practice in patience and allowing the market to kind of take shape and see where the money is coming in on, because I think a lot of people are going to be looking at, recent performances at this track, not necessarily what we've seen leading up to the race. And some of these numbers may float, some may get shorter, but I think it's a good opportunity to wait and bet these lines outright anyways, live.
Yeah. Let's talk some of the longer odds. Kyle Busch 17, Keselowski 18, Briscoe's 20 now, Bubba's 20, Bell's 20. That's interesting. I know he's not great here, but Chris Bell is obviously one of the elite guys. Was somebody that a lot of people were kind of down on last week. Obviously had an amazing race and almost won it. Just given where his number usually sits, it's kind of wild to see that. Your guy Ryan Preece is here. There's 22. You obviously got 23. Chase is down here at 24. Chastain, like who obviously talk about Preece and then anybody else that's kind of in the 20s and 30s that kind of makes sense as somebody to might be able to get a little bit of a discount and ring the bell or whatnot on Sunday end of the day.
Yeah, so the only reason why I'm playing Ryan Preece here is just the run that he's been on leading up to this race, and I'm a broken record, but talking about just the strength that we've seen out of this guy heading into this weekend at 1.5, and then especially at Homestead where he ran really well. He qualified up front on the front row, speaking to the narrative of guys winning from starting near the front. I think he checks that box. He looked really fast in practice amongst Group 2, which had the best cars in the field. And he's probably the hottest driver coming into this weekend just based on expectations. And so you're going to hang a 25. I know he doesn't have a great history here, but we're talking about a dude who, although not in the best equipment, has 15th, 17th, and 12th place finishes in 3 of the last 4 races while he was racing with Stewart Haas. And so now he's in this RFK number 60 car. From my vantage point, has looked like the best car in that stable so far this year in terms of overall speed and not getting finishes based on strategy. And he's starting on the front. Like, I think all of that stuff tells me like he should probably be in that 20 range. He's probably being priced this way because of history, but yeah, I'm going to look at that. And then, like you said, Christopher Bell and Chase Briscoe, if you want to take a swing at those numbers, I don't hate that because despite their practice results not looking the greatest, Bell has been pretty good here. And then Briscoe, winner of the Southern 500 last year, he was really fast in the spring. This is a place that he has tremendous success at. He's got a great qualifying position.
Yeah, he's, I don't know. It's like, I don't know. Like you even mentioned it. Like, what do we do with the Toyotas? Because, in theory, it should be awesome. And obviously, Denny was able to qualify in Briscoe too. But practice, they look like garbage. I don't know if I can trust them.
Yeah, and it's really hard
outside
too.
of 2311.
Well, yeah, no, I think because going back to the lead into the show, talking about how there's more questions than answers. I mean, it's really difficult when you look at practice results and then you try to pinpoint the guys that were going to go out and qualify really well. That wasn't the case. I mean, guys like Christopher Bell and Chase Briscoe, they looked okay in practice. They had decent fall off numbers, and then they go out and Chase Briscoe goes out and qualifies near the front, and Christopher Bell looks like shit in his qualifying lap. Or Kyle Larson, for instance, has fantastic practice, qualifies mid pack. So I don't think it's difficult now as we're heading into these races to try to say like, oh, this guy's got the best car when they're not putting together both practice and qualifying. And this is a track where track position matters and you can get stuck with the squirrels. And if anybody races like Ross Chastain did in the Xfinity series, you could get put into the wall very easily.
Yeah. So, if you had to bet Bell or Briscoe, is it Bell pretty easily, or would you consider Briscoe, especially given he's won at this track?
I'd probably bet Christopher Bell, honestly. When you factor in crew chief, I mean, does anybody trust James Small yet? And just he got the track time in Xfinity, and a lot of the reason why he fell was not because his car stunk. Although I don't think it was a race winning car, he did get kind of beat up and his car got destroyed there late. So I don't know. I'm not running to the window to bet either. I think the numbers are fine. I know win the race doesn't necessarily have that as fair market value, but I mean, anytime you can get a guy like Christopher Bell or even Briscoe with his track history here at 20, I don't hate the number. But again, like I'd rather see them look good to start the race and maybe grab 12, even 10 if they're running well about halfway through, than bite on this 20 and then practice to kind of show its head and their car actually sucks.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. Any long shots that you want to grab? Austin Dillon at 150,
So,
Noah Gragson at 100, Justin Haley at 250.
no. I don't think
Okay,
this is a place where you're going to have the rando winner.
yeah, sure. I mean, I guess Chase Briscoe winning, but
Yeah, but
maybe
he had always been strong here.
yeah. Oakley Dokley, we've been over an hour at this point. We talked DraftKings, we talked some updated outright odds. As I mentioned, Brian and I will be ravaging through all of the sports books, looking for the best bets in our estimation. We will have all those written up. We will add to the betting card, which will be also in the Substack. Highly recommend checking that out. As the card sits, all my pre-practice stuff is Gibbs over KFB, 2311 over Penske, Bubba Wallace at 20, and then post Tyler Reddick 7. Brian has Gibbs, Wallace, 83 stacks the top 10, 2311 over Penske, and he added the Priest at 25. Anything else on the tip of your tongue as I want to get exposure to him? I'm probably going to add an outright. I'm going to look for a good matchup for this guy. Anybody that you're really excited to find a way to get on your card without knowing exactly what that's going to look like yet?
I think it's definitely getting more exposure to Bubba.
Yeah.
And I got to find the right price. Like I do think there's some decent numbers for top 10s out there. I usually shop for like the plus 150 or longer. I have a hard time betting like minus money on those placements, but
especially here where I feel like there's
exactly. There's so much variance at this track. That being said, how do you not look at fine in practice, qualified great? He's on a roll. Similar to what I talked about with Ryan Blaney, like removing the variance that is inevitably going to happen here, he should be a top 10 car, or, he definitely has a shot at a top 5. So I think some of those numbers, if you can get the right price, I think are definitely worth a dart.
Yeah. We'll have some decisions to make. If you made it this far, we really appreciate you checking everything out.
Thank you very much.
As
Yes.
a reminder, make sure you like and subscribe if you have yet to do so and you're still here. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. All this stuff is linked in the description. Make sure you check that out. We'll be back next week to recap all that was, and then we get set for Bristol, baby. Talk to you next time.